Good morning and welcome to this webinar, Inventor Taking Control of Your Styles. My name is Aldred Boyd. I'm the application engineer at Micrographics for the mechanical manufacturing division, and I'll be taking you through this presentation over the next 30 to 40 minutes. Just there's my email address so that if you do have any questions, then you're more than welcome to email me afterwards. This is a little bit about myself. So I'm an industry specialist for the Autodesk manufacturing products, as I said before. So I've been dabbling around in the last, good couple of years on AutoCAD, Inventor, Vault, which is the data management system, plus AutoCAD electrical, anything that comes in the product design and manufacturing collections, I've got to kind of know it. I've got about 19 years of experience now, just short of 20. I hope I get my 20-year-old gold watch. And yes, so I've kind of been in the game for quite a while. I'm both AutoCAD and Inventor certified, so I've had to write my exams as well. If you are thinking of taking your exams, I think it's quite a good idea. I think there's the user exam, the professional exam, so yeah, have a go, see how good you are, see where you can actually or need to improve. I'm also an Autodesk certified instructor, so what this means is that I need to teach any Autodesk product to the high standards that Autodesk holds all of us. So I've been taught in that manner. So if you do ever come for training with us, you know that you're in good hands. I have been a lecturer at both Autodesk University Extension, Johannesburg and Cape Town. Now, if you've never been to one of these, it's a fantastic place to go. With COVID, I think, it's going to be more virtual, but it's a good opportunity to go if you can't, get down either to Joburg or Cape Town. There is the Autodesk University in Las Vegas as well. So, if you can ever get to that, it's a fantastic experience. Okay, so the agenda, understanding Inventor styles and standards. So if you've never done any of this stuff before, you've just installed Inventor, from scratch every single time. You've used the default styles and standards. You haven't really changed what your icons look like or your arrows, your line thicknesses. Then hopefully after this you'll understand exactly what this is, and if you'd like to improve your templates, this is where you're going to start. Where to find your styles? Okay, so obviously where to find your styles, because if you don't know where to find them, how do you go and modify them? We're going to take a look at creating and editing existing styles. We look at the styles libraries and conflicts, because yes, like as in all software, you do get conflicts. You need to know how to resolve those conflicts. And then just importing and exporting styles. So if you were going from one computer to another, or maybe you've got one template, you want to just take a couple of the styles from the one template to the other, then we'll see how you can import and export those styles. Okay, what are Inventor styles and standards? It's just a little definition I picked up off the internet. So Inventor contains a set of common materials, colors, and lighting for parts, as well as common drafting standards such as ANSI, ISO, and DIN for drawings. Okay, so let's just break that down a bit. So as you know, we are working in 3D components, and with those 3D components, you're able to give them things like materials and colors. So those materials will have things like density, a mass, Poisson's ratio, if you want to do FEA on it, anything like that, and a color. So, you might make a component, but obviously it's not going to stay in its base component color. You're going to give it a color. So maybe give it a splash of paint or something like that. So you can then go and see that in Inventor as well. Lighting for parts. Obviously, this is a visual package. You're not just going to create some nice 3Ds and then, sort of the client comes over, takes a look at it. They want to see something nice. And lighting plays a big part in taking a look at and making things look really good. So, that'll be part of your styles. How would you like it to look? How the lighting to look? Too gritty? Would you like it to look happy, a bit of gloomy? So you can control that through your styles and standards. Then the drafting standards, ANSI, ISO, DIN. Okay, so what does the text look like? How big is the text? What do your arrows look like? Your arrow dimension, your dimension line, your thicknesses. All of that kind of stuff is all what makes up over here. So, and your style libraries, okay, so you've got Inventor styles and you've got your Inventor style libraries. Okay, so these are a kind of collection of styles in each document, and they are a collection of XML files that you'll find on your computer. Yeah. Okay, so just reiterating again, an Inventor style, okay, is the kind of like the style that you have. So maybe like an arrowhead. Then that can be grouped into an Inventor style library. So you have your materials, your line types, line weights, and all that information will be in a style library. Okay, these style libraries can be in a centralized location. So you will take the style library and go put it on a server somewhere. Okay, so that helps you also to administer it very simply instead of having it on, say, for instance, 50 machines, and you'd have to go, if you wanted to go change, for instance, an arrowhead from an arrow to a dot, you have to go to 50 machines, whereas if you have it in a centralized location, you can just go to that one location, change it once, and all 50 machines are updated. Okay? And this makes it a good common source of information. I mean, that's what we all want. We want one source of information so that you don't have little hiccups coming up and down, because you've got someone using his own styles and the rest of the company using their styles, and someone forgot to pick up that style is what is needed or needs to be changed. And then all the work goes out. 49 people have got the one style, and that one learned person has got a different style, and it's not so good. Style libraries can also aid with large assembly performance. Now, why I say this is when you have, say for instance, you've got an assembly with 100 parts. If you have different styles or individual styles for all 50 of those people, okay, so they all have their own style, and each style will be sitting in each part. That means that you've got a style library in 50 different parts, including another style library in your main assembly. So it really does make that whole assembly quite large. Whereas if you had a centralized style library, then all 50 of those parts plus the assembly are only referencing that one style library. So it's much better to have that one style library just referencing into all those parts and assembly, whereas if you had it in each individual component, you'd have 50 individual style libraries in that assembly of yours. So it does increase your large assembly performance. As I said, these are stored in XML files in your design data folder, okay, and they can be edited using the Inventor Styles Editor or Manager. Okay, so the Styles Library Manager is found under your Start button, bottom left-hand corner of Windows, and the Inventor Styles Editor is available in the different documents that you open, which we'll see a little bit later. Okay, so what kind of things does the styles and standards sort of control? So, for instance, in your parts, as you said, it might control your materials, how they look, what properties they've got to it. For sheet metal, your sheet metal defaults, like the K factor. You want to control the K factor. That's, I think the default is 0.44 for Inventor, and other things like the material thickness, things like that. Assemblies, you can control the environment. So these styles control the environment, what the lighting's like. And then in drawings, for instance, the size of your dimension arrowheads, as I said. Okay, so getting started. So how do we get started with getting these styles to look like you want? So the first thing we need to do is actually open up the part, assembly, or drawing that you actually, that you want to edit. So the styles in the drawing would be things like text height, text font, things like that. Assembly would just be materials, lighting, and then part would be materials, lighting, and for sheet metal component, your sheet metal defaults. Okay, where do we access it? Through the Manage tab, and then you'll see there's a Styles and Standard panel, and you'll see the Styles Editor, Save, Update, and Purge. So those are the 4 buttons that we're going to need to be able to control our styles and standards. Okay, so this is the Styles and Standard Editor that you have in your parts and assemblies. You can see there I've got my lighting. So you've got a whole lot of default lightings. You can create your own as well. As well as the bottom, you've got text, and that text is for your 3D annotations. So if you have used 3D annotations, this is where you'll control that. In a drawing, so this is what the Style and Standard Editor looks like in your drawing. So you can see the standard, balloon, center mark, date and target dimension, all the things that you would associate when creating drawings, 3D drawings. Okay, to specify the library location. Now, as a default, when you install Inventor, the design data, okay, so that's the folder that all the styles are kept in, so it's called design data, will be situated under C, users, public, documents, Autodesk Inventor 2021, and then you'll see a design data folder. Now, if you right click on that design data over there and you'll see there edit, And you can actually go and choose or change the location of where that design data folder is going to be. What you also need to know that if you want to change your style library, make sure that use style library is set to read write. If it's set to read only, then you will not be able to actually update it. So you won't be able to write back into that design data folder any changes that you've made either in your parts, assemblies, or your drawing file. Okay, so let's go and create a style for drawings. So what you need to do is you need to open up your drawing templates, not file new, not file new, open up. You actually need to go file, open, and go look for that drawing template, that IDW or DWG that you've created or that you want to start with, and then go navigate there. Then basically manage tab and open up your styles editor. What you're going to see is this over here. Now, on the top left-hand corner, you'll see the standard and default standard ISO. So that is our standard that we're going to use. On the right-hand side, you can see there local styles, all styles, and active standards. So the local style, that's what's sitting inside this DWG or IDW at the moment. The active standard would probably say the same, and then all styles would probably have default standard, ISO, ANSI, DIN. There's quite a few. I think there's about 8 or 9 that comes default with Inventor. So with that over there, you can go and create a new one as well, and then set up your own settings. Over here, if I click on my default standard ISO, there, as you see there, the new button is now available for me to select, and from that I'm able to go and change different options. And you can see over here the things that you can kind of change. So on the general tab over here, what do I want my units to be? Linear, millimeters. Okay, great. There's inches, meters, decimal marker with like a comma, a point, or a period, or a space. And there's preset values for my line weights. Okay, and you can add new over there as well. And then a character exclude. So for instance, this says apply to my view names and revision tables or tags. I do not want I, O, Q, S, X, or Z. On my view preferences tab, so just what else do you need over here? So projection type, first angle or third angle. Then your default thread edge display. How do I want my thread displayed? See at the bottom over there on the left, it will either be a full circle or a sort of partial circle over there. And in the top right over here, you'll see there, when I put down a base view, and I want you to display the view and the scale. And then at the bottom here, position above or below the view. And then if this is yellow, that little visibility light bulb, then that means when I place my base view, it's going to place it down. The display, the view and the scale will display down as well. Okay, and then availability styles. So what I'm showing you over here is that for each style type, balloon, center mark, datum target, dimension, maybe whole table, you might have additional styles. So in my dimension style over here, you'll see I've actually got 5 different styles. Default ISO, default method 1B, default method 2A, default method 2B, or default millimeters and inches. So that's dual units over there. I can go and create a new dimension type over here as well, and then go put in all my own, line weight, line type, how far the dimensions have to be spaced when I do baseline dimension or something like that. So you'll see there, these are all available in the default standard ISO standard. If I say, for instance, take off default method 1B, 2A, and 2B, so I only have default and default millimeters and inches, if a user then opens up the a drawing and now starts to dimension, and he wants to see, okay, right, what styles do I have? Only the default and default millimeters, inches will be available to them, as that's what I'm controlling from my styles and standard. And then this is probably the most important thing, object defaults. So once you've gone and created all your different balloons, center marks, maybe dimension styles, layers, leaders, parts lists, revision tables, you need to go into the object defaults and you need to go change the object style. So this in the middle over here, if I had to go, for instance, to my dimensions, I go create a new dimension style called Micrographics. When I come through to my object defaults, I need to go make sure that under angle dimension default ISO, I change that to Micrographics. So it does not, just because you add a new style to whatever you need to put in your balloon, center marks, dimensions, you need to make sure that in your object default, you change your object style as well. So that is very, very important. So once you've created or modified all your details over here, your styles, balloons, center marks, dimensions, etc., you need to go to the object default and make sure that whatever you've changed is reflecting under your object style over here. Okay, so now what happens, I just want to show you what it looks like when you click on one of the settings. Dimension, I've gone to my default ISO over there. So it gives you a whole lot of other tabs. If you've ever done this in AutoCAD, this should seem very familiar to you. Units, once again, alternate units, display would be like text and things like that. Text, tolerance, options, notes, and leaders. So over here as well, you'll see that you actually jump around in your styles and standard editor. For my primary text style, I've got no text ISO. But if I want to go and change that, you'll see if I have to click on the drop-down arrow, it'll just be like to no text and maybe tolerance text or something like that, or secondary text. What I need to do is I click on that little pencil over there, and what it does, it will automatically jump down to the table option at the bottom of this. See, I've got actually, sorry, label text, no text, and standard. Now, when I'm in my tables, I can create a new table, fill out, font size, color, etc. And then what I'll do is, because I've jumped from within the style to another style, I can just click on back and it'll jump back to my dimension and I can continue where I was from. Yeah. If I had to say, for instance, go to my text and then click on table, that back function would not be available to me. So there's a nice little functionality over there where I can just go between each one. So I'm editing my dimension styles. Okay, right. I actually need to dimension a style that's sitting within my style. So my text, click on text, edit text, it jumps to the text, I create my new text, and then I click on back, it'll jump back to my dimension, and I can carry on from where I was. And then obviously, you'll see there's a save button over there. So once I've changed something, that will highlight saying that, look, changes have been made. Would you like to save? And I say, yes, I do. And you'll save it. Okay. So jumping on next to sheet metal. So for sheet metal, you can actually go to the styles editor from your sheet metal default. And over there, you can see there, I've got my different rules, my thickness, my material, and my unfold rule. Going into this sheet metal defaults over there, or my style and standard editor, you'll see there that I've got two styles. I can go create a new style if I want. And there, material, thickness once again, unfold rule. So there you can see I've got default K-factor and bend compensation. If you haven't worked with sheet metal before, default K-factor in Inventor is 0.44. So that is that line that runs through the material, as it bends, in or out. That does not sort of stretch or contract. Okay, so that's like kind of your neutral line. And that 0.44 or 44% of the overall thickness is taken from the inside of the material. Then on the bend, you'll go change what bend options you want for your relief shape. And then what I love about the Inventor, when you're creating your styles and standards, it's very visual. So, relief width A, there we go. I can see exactly what it's going to do. Relief depth B, there we go. I can see exactly where that's going to be. And then minimum remnant C, I can see exactly where that's going to be as well. And the third option is your bend, your corner, so 2 bend intersection, and your relief shape for your 3D bend intersection as well. Okay, so we've created those for our styles and standards. So let's go into our parts and assemblies. So over here you can see how you can change your lighting. So if you ever wondered how does the lighting work? Where do the lights come from? I mean, normally we just open up Inventor and we can see it, and it looks good. But what if you want to make it look even better? So under your lights over here, you can see there I've got something called an image-based lighting. We like to call it IBL, and this is basically like a 3D panorama picture that you've taken, where you can bring it in, and wherever the lights are, it kind of reflects those lights onto your model. So if there's blue, you'll kind of see blue coming down. If it's very bright, you'll see there'll be a very bright interior. If it's kind of darkish, you'll see a little bit darkish. So you can see over here, it's kind of like a warehouse that you've got. It's quite dark over there. You can create your own. So with the product design and manufacturing collection, you've got 3ds Max, and you can create these IBLs in 3ds Max as well. Then you can display your scene image. So you can either just have the lighting coming through, or you can actually see the exterior of picture you've taken up. And then you can change your exposure, you can rotate it, and you can scale it up and down as well. So for instance, your IBL might only be 10 meters in diameter, but your object or your assembly is 12.5 meters. So what you can do is just scale it up and get it going like that. Okay, so the next one we're taking a look at is lighting. So this is where your lighting comes from, and this is how the lighting finds direction, north, south, east, west, the color of the lighting and the brightness as well. So you can say, well, put up, you've got 4 lights over there. So there's 4 different lights coming from the top, and you can click on each one and individually and see how bright each one is and what color each light is as well. And then you've obviously got to look at your shadows. So with all, this is actually very important. If you want to make your objects or your parts and assemblies look good, you need to make sure that it's got good lighting as well. So, the better your lighting is, it's great, but also shadows. Shadows also make it look really, really realistic. So when creating your styles and standards, you want to make sure that things look absolutely fantastic. So, for a VR, lighting direction is light 3, the density of the grounded object shadows. So, how dense is it? The softness. So, how does it blend in, as it gets further away from the object? And your ambient shadows. So ambient shadows are things like, the shadows that, this object will cast a shadow on another object, or you've got your corners in your objects. Those kind of ambient shadows within the actual part. There's the shadows we're looking at. So you can get those looking as realistic as possible. Your model, without even trying putting ray tracing on and going into Inventor Studio, can look very, very good. Straight off the bat. Another thing that we can take a look at for styles is our materials. So this is part of the parts and assemblies. So you look at your materials, you look at your color library, and you'll see all of this over here. So we've got 2 different libraries in Inventor. You've got your Inventor library, which is just cordoned off to Inventor, and you've got your Autodesk material library as well. And the Autodesk material library, the nice thing about using that one is that you can go and share it with, say, for instance, AutoCAD or Revit or Navisworks. So, if you design something in Inventor and you use the Autodesk material library and you take it into, say, for instance, Revit or AutoCAD, you'll see there that the materials will at least look the same. As long as the materials that you've been shared on is the same on that computer, or, you've shared that library. If you had to go and put an Autodesk material on an Inventor component on one computer and then you go to another computer which has got a separate styles and standards or material library, then you're going to find that it might look a little bit different. Okay, so once you've created all of your styles and standards, so we've done our drawings, we've done our parts, we've done our assemblies, we now need to know, how do we save it back to our styles library? Okay, so it doesn't do it automatically, it is still saved locally in those different documents. So we've got to now go back to our styles and standards panel in our manage, and we've got to save, update, or purge. Now, with saving the style to the style library, click on save, and it says, do you wish to update the style library with the following styles from the document? Now, what it looks at the name inside the document and looks at if there's another corresponding name in your styles library. So what is done over here now, it's found 2 default IBL names, okay? And it's said the type is lighting. The location is in both. So it's in both of those. And there are changes, and the changes are local. Okay, so it's telling me the changes are made inside the component or the part. And then would I like to save it to the library? Yes, I do. So it takes it and it overwrites that default IBL file from the document that I've got inside. For instance, and if for instance, I had a style name Micrographics, and the Micrographics was not in the library, I would say location local. So would you like to make changes? Okay, if I click on the update, what the update does, do you wish to update these styles to match the style library? So what it does, it copies whatever's in the library into your document. Okay, so overwrite whatever you've done in your document from the styles library over there. And then purge styles. So this is just more about managing your drawings and your styles. Purge styles is basically deleting any unused styles that you've got. Just making that file a little bit more lightweight. Okay. Then you've got the Styles Library Manager. So, you should actually be using the Styles Library Manager every single time you are updating your Inventor from, say, 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 21. Okay. What this does is you need to migrate your styles, like you need to migrate your templates as well, just to update the database, so that it actually can work with the latest Inventor. You can also create new styles with this. So on the right-hand side, the Style Library 2, you'll see there's a create new style library over there. You can copy styles from one library to another. So, that's a great way to, if you see something that's really, really awesome, or you really need it inside your library, just you can just copy it using the Style Library Manager here. And you can also delete styles as well. Now, with this, just make a note here that when you are upgrading from Inventor 20 to 21 and 21 to 22, then just make sure that, just compare the two. So compare your Styles Library Manager, because this can compare what's missing from either one, to maybe the new Styles Library that comes into. Maybe, Autodesk has updated some of the styles. For instance, a couple of years ago, we all of a sudden had 3D annotations. And if you've been bringing your style library from maybe 2013 or 2014 or 2015 previously, then that 3D annotation style will not be there. So if you want to make use of those 3D styles, I would suggest probably, open up the new one and then copy all your old ones into the new one so that you update that and then you carry on with that. Okay, so at least then you've got you've got the new functionality which Autodesk is bringing out every year. Okay, now, have you ever seen this? I certainly have, many, 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 many times. Okay, so, style library conflicts. Okay, let's just say the following style definitions from the definition of the style library have changed. So what it's telling me is that this document that I've just opened up now, so I've opened up a new document. It's now telling me there's a whole lot wrong. So what's happening over here? Okay. Where do we see this error? New templates, definitely. If we directly open up a template, we will not see this error. And I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. What do you normally do about this? You just ignore it. Because, if I look at the previous message, it says, if the style definition, the style library are intended for the new document, okay, update. Sorry, at the top of it, the style library definition will be used. Because, once this is done, you just go, okay, when you start dimensioning and stuff, it still looks the same because it's still using the style library definition. But if you don't want to see this message, there are a couple of things that you can do. Okay, so the first thing we do is we open up our template file. So you don't go file new, you actually open up a template file and then take a look at this, the message. So, maybe take a screenshot of it when you said file new and just see what's happening. And if you need your style library document to override what's sitting in your part or your drawing document, then we will say update. Okay. If you want to save, if you actually have intentionally made changes to your template and you need those changes to override what's happening in your style library document, then you will then click on save. Okay. So save will take from the document that you've got open, your local document, and override the styles library. And if you need the styles library to override your document because maybe something's gone wrong, someone changed something, then you will click on the update button. Okay, so sometimes what happens is, maybe you just need to take one style from another drawing somewhere, and just for, maybe you've got a client who wants a specific style, but you don't want to go and, sort of redo your styles library, because, that's going to change everybody's styles. So what you can do is you can export the style that you want from an old document that you've got lying around somewhere. Okay, so export it, and then at the bottom of there you can see there's an import button as well. So you'll just open up the document that you want to export it from, you select the style, export, then you open up the document that you want to import it in, and at the bottom over there you'll see the import, it'll override it and it'll change your style in that document. Same thing for your parts or assemblies, you can see there, select the lighting that you want possibly or the text, okay, export it, And then once again, open up the new document, select import, and then you import it back in again. Okay, so that's basically just, your styles, styles libraries. Okay. Okay. So just in conclusion with that, styles libraries are great for large teams. I mean, you change one document, it changes everything and everyone. You need to make a change to that document. You can update all of the documents at once as well. Please remember to migrate after upgrading. This is very important because things don't work very nicely with that. And then also compare styles after each new release for new functionality. As I said, the 3D annotations came in, and you want to know that you've got the new functionality in your old style that you've been trekking along from 2013 to 2014, 2014, 2015, all the way up to 2021. And then just with context, read the message. I know I find a lot of guys that I do work with, they don't read the message. And just by reading the message, just by drilling down into that message, you'll actually see exactly what's wrong. And sometimes it's very, very quick and easy to solve that problem instead of maybe trying Googling it and having to read through 10 different posts as well. Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Great. And if there are any questions after the fact, maybe you thought of something else, please feel free to email us or myself at any of these email addresses, or as I said, my email address right in the front of it. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.